So MLK, he was one of the reasons why he was so kind of like nonviolent is because he was a pastor, I believe, right? Okay, yeah. So he was a pastor, and that greatly helped his speech because a pastor is extremely powerful in the way he speaks, and he took those skills and he put it into this speech. So I believe that actually the I Have a Dream part wasn't actually on his original script, and he actually started just going off his thoughts and just saying what he wanted to say, and he could deliver that so powerfully because of his skills as a pastor, and I just thought that was really cool.
Also, the fact that he's a pastor makes him more applicable to view it from different perspectives and how white people are seeing it, and also black people, and why it's necessary to kind of take charge now.
He also showed how into the topic he was because he related the topic to his kids, how he wanted them when they grow up not to be discriminated or anything.
Going off of that, I think because he was a pastor, he could really emotionally connect with a lot of people. Regarding the children, he said now it's time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. And I think that kind of pulls at the heartstrings of people, and they want to like really get up and fight for their cause.
So I think he was more of like a motivational speaker to like help motivate like people to like end racial injustice.
I thought it was really cool how even though he was a pastor, he didn't just completely rely on the religious aspect of kind of swaying the people who are listening. Like he uses metaphors and similes with money and like the environment and nature and things, and all that kind of helps to sway people to kind of join him in his fight for something.
Yeah, onto that, I like how he really focused on the American dream and how everyone in America should unite to form, to unite in brotherhood.
And also, kind of even adding on to that more, a lot of people could recognize it because he makes references to past historical documents. Like he says 5 years ago, and I'm gonna make connection to the Emancipation Proclamation, as he says. And also in this clip we saw, he said, a direct quote from the Declaration, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. So it's like having people just to be like, oh yeah, this is what we used to stand for. We need to make it apply to everyone.
I like this comparison that he made. The Negro people had a bad check, bank marked insufficient funds, just all the other comparisons he makes. Bank of Justice, quicksands of racial injustice, Valley of Despair, Oasis of Freedom, I did like that.
I like that he kind of kept everyone together by saying, with this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together. He's saying no matter what we do everything together as a group.
Going off what Chris said when he said we cannot walk alone, because it can't just be African Americans fighting for their rights. It has to be whites have to get involved too if we want to see a change.
Not just whites. I feel like it should be. I think he referred to everyone in the world, everyone in America.
Yeah, going off that, down at the bottom of the last paragraph, he even says, not just all black men, but he also wants Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, black men and white men to all be one and be together.
Even going off your quote from the speech, it really shows how this isn't going to be easy, and even if we are together, that doesn't mean that everything is going to come easy. We just need to march and pray together. He does talk about how we'll go to jail together, and we'll all have to go through the hard times to get to the better times for not only ourselves, but for our children.
So one thing I want to ask you guys, I'm curious about what you think. So the very last thing he says is, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Why do you think he chooses that rhetoric to end his speech? Why that versus anything else? Jay, go for it.
Because that used to be a prominent slave saying, and if he's going to be saying that, it's kind of representing how, despite the fact that they aren't technically slaves, they're kind of slaves to the modern era at this time.
I kind of want to add on to that. I feel like that he said that to not only allude to the fact that they came from slavery to freedom, and now that they're kind of they're trying to make it to another breaking point, to have equal right.
I don't really know why he said that, because it's not like they're not free, they're just being discriminated against.
Well, he's trying to predict to the future to where that if they come together and fight for this right, that they will be free at one point.
No, see, I think it was used more of as satire, more sarcastic, because he's trying to say, oh Lord, free at last, even though they're not, and they're kind of moving backwards. Because like we had said earlier, they were slaves before, then they were free, and now they're being discriminated against even more, and things just seem to be rolling in a backward sense. And because he uses that, I think it gives kind of some more emotion to his speech, and I think it gets people really thinking like, why are we moving backwards? We were doing so well, and it just wants to keep pushing forward.
Well, and yeah, they're both wanting the same thing, essentially, but Malcolm X, right, doesn't care if it uses violence. I thought that was interesting.
I also found it interesting how Malcolm X kind of says, we aren't one with the white people, we aren't the same as you, and we deserve better, where Martin Luther King was all, we're one, and we should all work together so we can be one with you and be treated the same. Malcolm X is just kind of like, we're not like you, we were brought here against our will, and now it's either you're going to give us what we deserve, or we'll leave and go to where we belong.
Yeah, you give them that ultimatum to either head back home to Africa or stand up and fight for their rights to become citizens of the U.S.
Well, I think the decision that they're talking about is the ballot, giving them kind of the equal rights as everyone else, or the bullet, which would be kind of symbolizing them getting violent and fighting against U.S. for what they deserve and what they're allowed to have as basic rights as a citizen and as of the United States. And that's kind of what they're trying to, as Malcolm X is trying to show. He's saying, either give us what we want, or we're gonna bring this out of hand.
So is he trying to, like, the speech is mainly just like either peaceful protest or violent protest?
Yeah, it's kind of, he's giving the decision to really the people in the government. They're like, you can pick, we can have peace or we can have this violence.
So he's basically giving an ultimatum.
Part of me wonders, like what Emma said, why the MLK speech is so much more remembered than this one. Because we're talking about how peaceful Martin Luther was and how like he was like we're all one, but then he was like kind of angry, and this speech is so much less remembered than MLK, and then it kind of makes me wonder why.
Well, I think the reason for that would probably be because he was such a radical and he was promoting violence. And people don't really gravitate towards that. They want something that they know is going to be better for people. So if you're promoting peace, that comes across better to the public eye.
Yeah, the public doesn't like to view things like things that helped. They don't like to usually view that as violent, because that's usually not where people want to go. But so when they, I feel like people can't have a harder time connecting those two, like violence equal good things, and that's kind of, people are like, okay, well, that's kind of strange because violence is, we've been told that's bad, but it led to this good thing. So I think that kind of confuses people. When with Martin Luther's, it's peaceful protest led to good things, and people are like, okay, that's an easy connection.
Well, another reason is that like Martin Luther's like movements, like the movement before had like a lot of success and passed things like voting rights and all that. And like Malcolm X, like he's like almost a newcomer in this speech, almost, and like Martin Luther's like a veteran in this case, really. So he has naturally more people coming to him.
Going off what you were saying, I think also, I think the reason why people kind of gravitate more towards Martin Luther King and not Malcolm X is when you have violence, it kind of, in my opinion, takes the attention away from that cause that you're trying to rally for, because people are just going to point out they were acting so radically and hurting people and causing all these things, and it's taking attention on more their actions and not what they're standing up for.
And also, which viewpoint prevailed in this debate? Which one do you guys think made it towards support from Malcolm X or
I don't think it's a matter of like choosing one, but how the two kind of, like the two speeches kind of like work together even though they were so different, because Malcolm X's speech was given 7 months after the I Have a Dream speech, and I think he kind of looked at the components from Martin Luther King's speech, and he tried to kind of contradict it, but in a way that it's productive.
Going off that, Malcolm X did use, in a way, part of MLK's speech by saying, you and I should let them know now that either we collect our investment right here, right now, and then if we can't collect it here, our people will then be ready to go back home. And he's kind of referring to like the money aspect, like, hey, we got our rights, we're not slaves anymore, but we're still being segregated against and everything. So he was kind of using MLK's speech in his.
Right, and kind of go off that. Like, I noticed he referenced MLK, he just kind of threw him under the bus a little bit in his speech. And he goes like, sitting in, waiting in, and like singing, we shall overcome. Like, that's no way to get somewhere. Like, you need to like get it through nationalism. And I kind of like, wow, totally referenced him.
He does that also, another time when he says, a preaching or a gospel is no better than its ability to be carried out in a manner that will make it beneficial to the people who accept it. So he's kind of talking about how Martin Luther King, he was a preacher, he was a man of religion, and he's kind of saying, you know, you're irrelevant, you're not doing anything, and get up, fight with me, grab your taekwondo and karate belts, and let's go. Like, it wasn't, I don't know, I think it was just kind of like a backhand at Martin Luther King saying, you know, I don't think you're making a difference, time for me to kind of step up. I don't know if it really worked.
Before we start to finish off, do you guys think is the ballot or the bullet the better way to go?
Ballot.
I want to hear it.
No, guys, the ballot or the bullet is the name.
Yeah.
Are you saying like as opposed to?
No. Do you think should you go for the ballot? Or
actually like asking.
Yeah. Anyone want to give an opinion on it?
Well, if the ballot is of course like preferred, like you don't want to hurt anyone, but sometimes you need to use the bullet. Like that, you don't have to use an actual bullet, obviously. But sometimes, like if they're hurting you, sometimes you get fed up and tired, and you just need to fight back.
Yeah, I like agree. Like the first thing that like you kind of go for is to like be peaceful, but then if that doesn't work and you need like to push more and like get what you want, you have to like start not like threatening, but kind of like making more of an action.
But he did say it himself that like the ballot is as like powerful as the bullet, so it's like kind of like the same thing, but like he just like needs to.
Well, I think the ballot. I think they're both just as well. I think they both eventually get you what you want, but the ballot I would think would have taken even longer than it already did. But the bullet is more of a direct way to kind of end it, because nobody wants to have conflict, and by starting conflict, the government's going to do all of its power to end that conflict. So by using the bullet, you get what you want faster, but then you're remembered more negatively than if you were just used the ballot.
But what if you use the bullet to get to the ballot?
Marco, what is it?
I have no idea.
Can you elaborate on that? Elaborate on that?
Yeah, can you elaborate? Elaborate?
Like, what if you have to take extreme measures in order to get what you want? Like, war's gonna happen.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Then you use the bullet.
Well, it kind of relates to like Sherman's March to the Sea, where like he had total warfare and he just totally like laid waste to the South and had like no mercy for anything. And then now he's regarded in the South as like the same category as like Hitler. Like they absolutely hate him for the devastation of their economy. So the way you get to the ballot is very important. The way you like it'll build your character to what you're trying to accomplish is very important. So I think the ballot over again.
I can attest to that, what Kevin said, because